Welcome back to Amani on Air. It's true, I just graduated from Oxford University this weekend. You are now looking at a newly minted Master of Science in International Human Rights Law. And let me tell you, getting this degree was not easy. The Trump administration froze my scholarship in the final hour and almost jeopardized my entire degree. The Trump administration has been on a rampage. They have been threatening to take away nonprofit status of nonprofit organizations that they politically don't align with. Is this constitutional? Obviously not. Does it show how weak and pathetic our concept of American democracy has become? Duh. And Trump's latest target was a nonprofit that was awarding me a scholarship to empower my studies in human rights overseas in the UK. They froze this organization's bank account because they bought a huge Times Square billboard demanding that FIFA no longer allow Israel to compete. And the billboard happened to go viral. And of course, the Trump administration has had absolutely no problem completely desecrating our concept of free speech rights in our country for our foreign allies. It's not just me that was impacted. Many other countless people across the country were impacted, not just by this specific nonprofit scholarships, but also many other organizations that have also been trampled upon by little man Trump's targeting of anyone truly that disagrees with him or dares to question or defy him in any way. Luckily, nothing can stop your girl, and the degree has been acquired truly against all odds. So I'm quite happy and proud about that. Not that we really need the validation of these traditional institutions anymore, but truly as a big you to the entire system by learning the language of the system from the very heart of empire that invented it. Now, how I choose to use that degree is an entirely different conversation. It was pretty cool and historic that we elected the first Muslim mayor of New York City last week, my friend and fellow activist Zahran Mamdani. And then a few days later, I ascended the halls of power at Oxford University to graduate in international human rights law. Not many people know this, but actually the official start date of our program was October 8th, 2023. Yeah, one day after everything popped off in Gaza. You all already know how I feel about fate, and obviously I couldn't help but feel that my participation in this program was truly written, and it truly affirmed to me that we're always at the right place at the right time. So imagine that I basically was studying this concept of international human rights law, which was invented by Western powers, in the epicenter of Western power, the headquarters, the academic headquarters, so to speak, while watching a real life case study of the sheer failure of international law through the ongoing extermination of my people. So, genuinely, like, I would be sitting in class at Oxford in these 1,000-year-old buildings, learning about the equality of all human life while scrolling on my phone past pictures of unimaginable violence, death, emaciated infants, even, and being taught that we're all equal and these Western doctrines protect the sanctity of human life and have established a new world order where, you know, all men and women are created equal, and obviously being confronted by the absolute contradiction of that fact. Actually, it made me question whether human rights law even exists in the first place outside of being another tool to uphold Western interests on a global scale. That kind of was the takeaway that I got from this program. It's really impossible not to view international human rights law as just really serving the powers that be, only kicking in when they are beneficial to those powers and being absolutely ignored when they're inconvenient. So I just saved you tens of thousands of dollars in tuition money. And I think one of the things that surprised me the most was how much the incredible talent, advocates, voices that I had the incredible privilege of learning from, how much they actually fundamentally agreed with me. And some of the professors that I established really excellent relationships with were elated to know that my takeaway from the program was honestly being a little bit more jaded than when I entered it. And they challenged me to take that newfound understanding and see what I can do with it. So here we are. In this program, I got to learn directly from United Nations special rapporteurs, top human rights advocates and lawyers from around the world, exceptional careerists within this field, some of whom actually innovated and paved the path for a lot of the concepts that we're learning today. Actually, even some of my classmates were among those brilliant people. I learned from my classmates just as much as I learned from my educators. One of my classmates even directly worked on the ICJ decision that just came out a couple of months ago that was a milestone for the climate justice movement and established that countries can now be sued for their contribution to the climate crisis, which is an unprecedented new development within the international law field. So I really highly encourage everyone to follow that. So truly, my degree isn't a proof of privilege, it is proof of survival. When reflecting on this entire experience, it really made me wonder if the system is willing to go as far as to freeze a scholarship to prevent me from studying human rights. Imagine how far the system is willing to go to prevent us from demanding them. One thing we know for sure is that unfortunately, under the Trump administration and the rise of MAGA, tech has become indoctrinated into that system. If the system had no problem targeting nonprofits to freeze scholarships, then it certainly wouldn't have any issue with pressuring tech to freeze evidence. It's been reported that YouTube has apparently removed over 700 videos that depict evidence of Israeli war crimes in Gaza. And a lot of these videos belonged to prominent Palestinian human rights organizations that the Trump administration has been targeting. So not only are they targeting the nonprofits, but they're also targeting any of the content that has been published by those nonprofits online as well. I think it's pretty much common understanding that with any type of legal proceeding, it is illegal to try to tamper with evidence, destroy evidence, evidence that will be held against you and make you look bad. And right now we're in the middle of an historic trial at the International Court of Justice, where Israel is being investigated for committing genocide. So not only legally, but also morally, tech companies should absolutely be obligated to protect and preserve any such evidence that exists on their platforms. And yet we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing tech companies work hand in hand with state governments to protect those violations. Now, this goes into the legal dissertation that I wrote based off of all of my legal research at Oxford University. More details on that later. But basically, what I have found through my own research is that state governments are getting tech companies to do the dirty work for them. So rather than state governments blatantly going ahead and violating international law, which already some of them have absolutely no problem doing that, but aside from that, kind of to hide their hands behind their back, they'll go to tech companies and have tech companies take actions that are actually in sheer violation of international law, a lot of which hasn't really been established yet because of the fact that international law is so far behind when it comes to tech, AI, social media, and digital rights in general. But this comes as no surprise, right? The majority, if not all, of the major social media platforms are based in Western countries, namely the United States of America. And when we had the one sole social media platform that wasn't owned by the United States of America, TikTok, we saw exactly what happened. As soon as Trump came into office, he absolutely weaponized censorship against TikTok, banning TikTok from the US in order to twist their arms and get them to sell to American owners. Why? To also get TikTok under American influence and control and, unfortunately, censorship, which has been happening with the TikTok algorithm just as much as any other social media network now. That goes into exactly what I was saying earlier about the risk of international law only serving Western interests. And in the same way, our social media platforms are being weaponized to serve Western interests too. Not only to propagate Western interests, but also to export Western ideals to the rest of the world. It is absolutely a new form of colonialism. It is called digital colonialism. And it's absolutely necessary for us to critique social media platforms and big tech for the role that they're playing in the international arena. They get to define the narrative and uphold empire. In this incredibly influential role in today's social media era, these platforms get to basically dictate geopolitical memory online. And in that way, we absolutely need to critique the role that they're playing in the international arena. I mean, think about it. Even when tech platforms use the algorithm to shadow ban certain accounts or certain pieces of content, or when they make the arbitrary decision to take down certain accounts, like what we saw happen with the Palestinian journalist Saleh al-Jafarawi. They're directly disrupting the spread of information, let alone the preservation of the information, and deciding who gets to exist online, what opinions get to exist and take form online, and even what thoughts they get to have. Truly like a thought police. George Orwell is rolling in his grave, my friends. 1984 is now. And the sooner that we wake up to that, the better we'll all be. A few months ago, Dropsite News even published this incredible expose which revealed that hundreds of employees in Meta are former Israeli soldiers, aka literal war criminals. And Israel is likely the only country in the world that has a government agency that directly is focused on taking down accounts. Like, their only role is to monitor social media, identify social media accounts that are harmful to Israel's narrative, and directly send lists of those accounts to Meta to get taken down. They even have an actual position at Meta called the Public Policy Director for Israel and the Jewish Diaspora, Jordana Cutler, who has openly stated that she has changed Meta's content policies in order to protect Israelis. This is terrifying because social media was, at its earliest onset, being celebrated as a democratizing force for people globally, for marginalized voices to have a fighting chance to be heard on an equal playing field as the dominant traditional ones. But unfortunately, what we're seeing happen is social media replicate the same power imbalances that exist in real life politically, and taking those and enforcing them online as well. And as we all know, in today's social media era, social media are the new digital streets. In today's world, the ultimate frontier of censorship isn't in the street anymore. It's in the algorithm. As you can see, this all goes hand in hand, right? Trump administration outlaws certain organizations, which gives social media networks the go-ahead, the green light that they need in order to take down those accounts and help uphold those powers, help protect those violations, and ultimately erase the inconvenient truths that found life online. But this isn't just about Gaza, and it's certainly not just about YouTube. It's about who's allowed to think freely in America and who is allowed to speak freely now. None of this comes as any surprise because we all know the Trump administration has already shown its hand, that it has absolutely no problem violating basic American tenets for its own political motives. I joined a segment on Al Arabiya with Josh Hammer and Destiny.
for many, many election cycles, we've been asked to choose the lesser of two evils. And I think the American people are sick of that. We don't want to keep voting for the lesser of two evils. We want to vote for something good. And in order to put something good in front of people, you have to shift into something different. So right now, a lot of, Democratic leaders, a lot of Republican representatives, they serve the same masters.
Now, Destiny is a streamer with millions of followers. And if you don't know who he is the one who went viral recently because on one of his recent visits to Israel, he met with a group of Israeli soldiers and told them that their biggest problem is that they take out their phones when they're committing war crimes.
Here's the one piece of advice I'll give you, okay? If you're joining the IDF, okay? Leave your cell phone at home and stop taking stupid videos, okay? Because everybody's you with them, okay? And if you see a soldier, okay, going through a drawer, and listen, if you want to wear a dress and you think it's funny, just don't take a video picture of it, okay? Jesus.
Why have more evidence of war crimes online and on social media? Just don't even create the evidence in the first place. That's Destiny's logic. Then Josh Hammer had the audacity throughout the entire hour-long segment to try to silence me by saying that Gaza and the ongoing genocide that our tax money is directly funding somehow has nothing to do with our current politics. It had nothing to do with Zahran Mamdani's win. And we are obsessed. We're the ones that are obsessed for constantly criticizing our blank check to Israeli war crimes at the same time as American citizens are literally being starved. And our government just experienced its longest shutdown in history. And even while Americans aren't receiving their basic necessities to live, our government has insisted that the money we're pumping over to Israel will not stop. It will not even miss a beat, not a single hiccup even, to the money that we're shoveling over towards them. But to Josh Hammer, whose entire existence online revolves around Israeli interests, Israeli politics, and all of these things, apparently this is irrelevant, and we're trying to make everything about Israel when it's not. And I have to say that this conversation with Josh really felt like arguing with a child. Anytime he didn't know how to respond or he didn't like the way the conversation was going, it was like he short-circuited.
Iran said that he would arrest a war criminal like Netanyahu, who has an active arrest warrant out for him. Yes, that did tremendously work in his favor. It actually was one of his most popular talking points.
You live
because
in the
New York
most
City is a diplomatic capital in the world. And we just had a UN General Assembly.
Okay, we're going to let Josh respond because then we need to move on.
I'm just so triggered hearing him talk. Like, it literally feels like nails on a chalkboard. I just don't even understand who his audience is or who he appeals to. But that was Al-Arabia's choice to put us on a segment together. So if you're interested, if you can tolerate his voice, if you want to hear my clapbacks, then you can go check out that video. It's a whole hour-long discussion that's now up on Al-Arabia's channel. All of this censorship that we are experiencing today, the freezing of my scholarship and the targeting of nonprofit organizations that are politically inconvenient, the big tech and social media collusion with state governments and protection of war crimes online, none of this is truly about policy. It is entirely about power and control. We are living in unprecedented times, and the warmongers in charge expect the public to just accept it as the new normal. Make no mistake that this is a new kind of warfare, one that's being fought through algorithms and our attention spans. Think about it. They don't even have to burn books anymore. All they have to do is throttle the algorithm, control our news feeds, suppress our views, and make sure that the people that are speaking up online never even reach our screens. But Gen Z and millennials know better than anyone, including the old guard, that what lives online once lives online forever. So let them go ahead and try to silence us. We're a generation that believes in our screenshots, and we believe in holding on to the receipts. See you next week, right here on Amani On Air.